Sea of Heroes top 25 list coming at you guys hot. October 2021. This is in the history of this list, which we have done so many times since July. The first time I ever did this was July 2017. It's been a hot minute. This is probably the biggest shakeup I have ever seen on this list. Now, obviously the GLs are kind of going to be where they're at, and the very top of the list isn't shaking up a ton. But when we get to like 5 all the way through 25, there are so many things that changed. And a lot of this is going to connect to, we've got the Executor that got released in the game. We've got the nerfs that happened in the game, all of which were definitely a big deal. And the voters on this list had a lot to say about that, shall I say, as we get into this. So let's just jump right in, ladies and gentlemen. Here is the list for October 2021. Now, I'm going to start by just showing you guys the GLs. We are showing Anakin in last place. Otherwise, there's no change. And the way I do the top 25, if this is your first time here, this has kind of been an evolution. But the GLs are carved out from other areas of the game for the most part. And so I rank them kind of by themselves based on the people and how they vote. But here's something that's really interesting about this list. Anakin, or Lord Vader rather, was actually rated below numbers 1 and 2 for the normal characters. So 2 characters got rated higher on this poll than Lord Vader did. That's crazy to me. I actually don't think it's accurate, but I think it just kind of is a reflection of the community sentiment probably towards Lord Vader not quite performing as people are hoping at this point, but we haven't seen Maul yet. And so I'm very, very confident that once we get Maul unlocked after the next conquest, we're going to see Lord Vader not just have other characters rated above him that aren't GLs, but I think he'll probably climb up and sit right next to Kenobi, either to his left or to his right on this list. I actually think he might push Kenobi over to the B slot and take first place potentially with what I'm seeing on Maul's kit. So before we get into the first column here, we got to talk about the Fallen. All right, everyone, raise your lightsabers for Ki-Adi-Mundi and General Veers, who last month were on the list. And this month we've got 2 characters that had not been on the list that made an appearance and kicked these guys off the list. I actually think Ki-Adi-Mundi is a top 25 character, and so I don't necessarily agree with that. But I can also see that I think people struggle with knowing exactly how to use Cam, and so that's probably where that happens. And he's also one of the least accessible characters in the game, and so I think sometimes that contributes to a lower rating for Cam. General Veers, I think it just depends on kind of how you look at General Veers, because he adds so much to that Trooper team, and I think the Trooper team is better than the CLS team in a lot of ways, and so many ways. It can do so much offensive output. It's just insane, and none of that happens without Veers. But I think that the team, because there's so much cohesion there, when you look at the individual characters in that Troopers team, it's harder to rank them high. It's kind of like you have to rank the squad as a whole. And so I think that's kind of why that happens. All right, let's talk about numbers 21 through 25. So 2 characters showing up that you haven't seen before on the list in a while, at least, is Bosk and Hermit Yoda. Hermit Yoda kind of confuses me. I think this is maybe just connected to, we're just seeing so many different uses for Jedi and Hermit Yoda. He kind of pops in the list and pops out. I think he's one of those lower tier characters. It just kind of depends on the sample size of people that are voting if he's going to show up or not. But you're going to see a lot of movement here as well. Bastille Fallen did drop 1. Rex dropped 3. Ahsoka dropped 6. Down to 25, barely hanging for dear life on the list. She's actually the one that kicked Cam out, kind of. If she would have fell one more slot, Cam would have ended up on the list. And then Bosk, this one makes a ton of sense. Like, out of everything we're seeing in this column so far, Bosk makes the most sense to me. Having him at 21, that's obvious correlation to the Executor, in my opinion. Having that Executor hit the game, those bounty hunter ships just got a lot more valuable, and Bosk's Houndstooth is a big part of what makes that team so good. So here's 16 through 20. Dark Trooper, 3 Baka, Grievous, C-3PO, and Moff Gideon. 9 spots jumped for Moff Gideon. That confuses me a bit. I'm not seeing everybody using Moff Gideon with Lord Vader necessarily. I am seeing it. Maybe that's what the pollsters that took the poll had in mind, is that with Lord Vader, we got more of that Empire usability, and maybe that's going to, kind of enable Moff Gideon to jump on the list. Other than that, it's a little bit of a head scratcher. I'm just going to be honest. I probably would not jump him up that high. He would probably be sitting around 23 to 25 for me. I think he is a top 25 character, one of the fastest characters in the game. Terminator Strip is amazing. Armor Shred's always good. AoE days. There's so much going on with Moff Gideon that's valuable. I just think that the characters that are rated kind of by him, I think they fit into better, more valuable places in a lot of ways. 3 Baka dropping is a bit of a surprise as well. 7 spots down. And that's something that we're seeing with this list that I think is really unique, is seeing the big swings. We're seeing characters that are dropping 5, 6, 7 spots and more, or increasing that much on this list. And this next column is going to be no exception. Here's where you're seeing Vader, my friends. He only fell 6 spots. He was ranked 5th last time. Now he's sitting at 11. So why is Vader only falling 6 spots? Some of you might wonder. I don't think so. Okay. So the way that we were using Vader got nerfed pretty substantially. But as far as how usable Vader is in and of himself in a Lord Vader team, very usable. He can be one of the main damage dealers still, even with his nerf. And so I think the pollsters were actually wise to not take him, just nerf him into oblivion on the list. I think that might have been more of an emotional play, because we're all pissed that they, obviously nerfed Vader, which I get that. I'm kind of pissed too. But if we look at it a little more objectively, he actually is adding a lot of value to that Lord Vader team. And so I think that they probably got this one right. I might knock him down a little bit more, because it just sucks that he's not being used the way he was before. So here's a little interesting logic on the list. Number 12, Han, goes up 4 spots. Number 19, 3 Baka, goes down 7 spots. And Chewbacca kind of stays the same. He's just kind of got bumped down by Watt, who we'll talk about here after this. So I'm not really sure what they're doing with the CLS, honestly. And I didn't vote on this list. This is just the opinion of the masses. And so interesting to see 3 Baka kind of get that nerf, but we're not seeing it for Han and Chewie. Perhaps that is connected to the MILF. I don't know. There's some counter viability there, perhaps, for executor fleets. So that could be maybe why those 2 didn't get nerfed as much as 3 Baka did. But anyway, it is what it is. Wat Tambor only fell 7 spots. I'm still finding pretty good use for Wat. It's different than it used to be. I think he's a little overrated at 13 now with the nerfs considered. But that's where the pollsters did decide to put him. Okay, 2 columns left. Here we go. Next up, we've got number 6. Jedi Revan. Then Admiral Piet at 7. 8 is Commander Luke Skywalker. 9, General Kenobi. And then, of course, Padme in at number 10. Piet, man. Biggest jump on the list. Plus 11. That is such a huge jump. And, man, I wonder why. Obviously, this is connected to the Executor. One of the most valuable commodities in this game. Definitely the most valuable commodity in terms of ships. And you're going to have your Piet at Relic 8. And so people are seeing a lot of good use for Piet at Relic 8 as well, I think, in the game as a character as a whole. Now, generally, when I rank this list, I kind of prefer the list to be not considering ships as much, because I just want to talk about the character viability as a whole. The pollsters clearly are weighting ships pretty heavily on this rendition of the list. There's no other way. There's no other way that Piet would have got that much of a jump in viability. Same with Bosk. It just makes sense that that's why that's happening. Otherwise, seeing Jedi Revan go up, that's kind of just a result of other characters that fell, and kind of similar with Kenobi. And I actually think Padme going down makes sense right now, because people are having a hard time finding a use for Padme anymore. I mean, well, maybe not finding a use, but her team got really carved out by Jedi Master Kenobi. More people have GMK by now, and so finding a way to use Padme nowadays is just a little bit more tricky. You're probably going to use her with more of a second-tier Galactic Republic team and still get good use out of her, but she's just not quite as as vital, I think, as she was before JMK. All right. There actually was a shakeup on the top of this list. Darth Revan did jump above Malik. It was very close, though, if you look at the points. I think that's just kind of the way that the vote shook out. But casual reminder, we are separating non-GLs from GLs here. But technically speaking, if we were to do this 1 through 31, which is how many characters we're seeing right now, we would actually see Lord Vader sitting in between Commander Tano and Jedi Luke. That is where the pollsters put him. That is the first time in the history of this poll that a single GL has been rated below another character that is not a GL. And so I find that really surprising. I don't think it's accurate. Like, even without Vader or without Maul in the game right now, I think Lord Vader is better than Gas and Commander Tano. But the pollsters disagree with me, obviously, and that's where they put him, so I think it is notable. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is the top 25 list for the month of October 2021, our first list post-nerf. Now, we're going to do another list next month. We are probably going to be seeing more changes because right now, the nerfs are still a little bit fresh. We're still kind of learning them, where people fit. And so I think probably one of the reasons we're seeing so much shakeup on the list is because it just kind of blew up our perception of where characters fit, and that'll even out. And we'll probably get to a point where we see this shift a little bit more and then even out, and we'll have an idea of where characters fit. And so I wouldn't take this as a hear all to say all. This is just the pollsters' opinions for the tons of people that took this poll. So anyway, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. And as always, my brothers, don't forget,